Welcome to another episode of Falcon Central Radio. I'm Scott. We've got Aaron here as usual. We're going to go through a couple of things tonight. We're going to go over the Jeremy Ebert and Pat Angerer signings. So there are some questions related to those. Zeke, Motta, and Corey Peters wound up on the PUP list, which honestly isn't that surprising, but we'll go over that as well. Also, there's quite a few training camp questions that we've got, and then we wound up having about a half dozen, a little bit over a half dozen questions about the current Falcon situation in our mailbag. So we'll go over all that.
That we will. So, Scott, this is basically our last show of the off season. Technically, I guess you can say the real season doesn't start until September, but I'm counting training camp because we've been waiting forever for this off season to end. And I'm looking forward to camp starting, and we can actually talk about actual football and stuff. So that's fun. But anyway, sorry. But let's talk about Pat Angerer and Jeremy Ebert signings today. I guess they're moves.
They fill the roster out.
Yeah. Ebert gives us another body at wide receiver. Maybe he pulls a little bit of that Tim Toon magic and go from being just a camp body that no one really thinks and winds up making a roster. We'll see. He's, one of many slot receivers that are on the team, so it's going to be pretty tough for him to sort of distinguish himself from the Bernard Reedys, the Darius Johnsons, et cetera, et cetera. But we'll see what happens. As for Angerer, he's a little bit more of an established veteran. Played 4 years with the Colts, started 39 games over that time. Inside linebacker. Big-time tackle machine, pile jumper, I guess some might call it. But he's a veteran player that playing a position for the Falcons that sorely probably needs some veterans, at least to sort of stabilize the competition. Scott, what are your thoughts on Ebert and Angerer?
I think Ebert's honestly just a camp body. And then Angerer, I think, ends up being... I think it's between Angerer and Dobbins as far as who's going to actually make the roster.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're going to keep one of them. Whoever really looks better is going to be the one that stays on the roster.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I think, pound for pound, I'd probably say Angerer is the better player than Dobbins. But then again, Angerer's had some real injury issues the last couple of years, so you never really know if he's like 90% or whatever versus Dobbins being 100%. That's going to be what ends up winning Dobbins probably the job. But I guess quick question, Scott, did you scout Angerer in 2010 when he came out of Iowa? And I'm just curious what was your opinion of him when he was coming out of school, and has it changed much in the last 4 years?
I compared him a lot to Curtis Lofton when he came out. Not very good in coverage, very good thumper, probably a two-down guy, tackle machine kind of guy. I like him, but I never saw him as anything. I honestly never saw him as anything more than, that two-down thumper, or like an Akeem Dent at best. That's essentially what he ends up becoming. And he's looked basically the same kind of guy as what Lofton was. Solid in that short intermediate coverage, and then just a thumper. He's basically Warlow's backup. In case Warlow gets hurt, they want Angerer to come in. Or they want Dobbins to come in. That's what I think is the plan there.
Okay. I think that's a good comparison. I think I had like a 4th round grade on Angerer, so when he got drafted at the end of the 2nd round, I was a little bit of a reach. But then again, I had like a 3rd round grade on Lofton, basically for the same reasons: limited range, limited coverage ability, two down linebackers. were a big thing in like 2002, but nowadays it's not a whole lot. But I guess follow up to that is, if you had to make a prediction, today, do you think Anger is going to make the team?
I would say Anger would make the team over Dobbins, but Dobbins is a way better special teams guy. I think between those two, it's going to come down to who's better on special teams for the Falcons scheme, which will probably be Dobbins. Honestly, I think Dobbins ends up being the guy at linebacker. I think when it comes to play at linebacker, they'll be like, well, we've got Shembo. We're not as worried about linebacker play. We're worried more about special teams play.
Okay.
Because I think they really like Shembo. As much as I hate to admit it, I think Shembo and Bartu are heading into this camp battle pretty even. But we'll get back to that later.
Okay. Any other thoughts on Ebert before we move on?
I mean, he could contribute a little bit to depth. He could challenge Davis or Johnson or Boldevine or any of these other guys for a roster spot, but I don't see him as anything more than a backup, honestly. If he even does make the roster, I don't think he'll make the roster, though. He's not very, he went in the 7th round because he's not very good.
Yeah, I think Ebert suffers from the same classic issues that most smaller slot receivers suffer from, which is basically, he's super quick. He has like a 6.73 cone. He ran like a sub 4.4 40 at his pro day at Northwestern a couple of years back. But he's very limited in traffic, and there are good corners in the NFL as opposed to college, and you have to be able to separate from guys. And if you can't, then you need to be, outmuscle them in traffic, and that's something that Ebert struggled with. And the other issue working against him that wasn't necessarily working against a guy like Tim Toon or some other guys that we brought to camp is there aren't a whole lot of 5'11", 195-pound wide receivers that are great special teams types of guys. Those guys tend to get, they're not exactly, you kind of, special teams about tackling, about getting off blocks, and that's one of the reasons why I think Ebert's going to struggle to make the team, even if he gets an opportunity on special teams, just because obviously the Falcons have Drew Davis, they have Courtney Roby, 2 proven special teams guys, and so it'll be hard-pressed, and you have a guy like Boldevine who has the potential to, be an impact guy covering kicks and stuff like that, and Reedy and Thompson get return kicks and stuff. So it'll be a tough task for Ebert to make the team.
Yeah, it definitely will. It definitely will be a tough task for him to even come close to making the team, which it's tough. I hate saying that, but it is what it is. Yeah. So we'll move on to Corey Peters and Zeke Motta on the pup. Do you think this move means Corey's still going to be on pace for week 1?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, talking to Corey, he didn't say this explicitly, but it didn't seem like preseason was going to be something in the pipeline. I'd never expected him to be, like 7 months removed from an Achilles to be, ready to go at the start of training camp. So I think basically it's like, if he gets in the 3rd preseason game, great. That's wonderful. That means he's way ahead of schedule. If he doesn't matter. He's still going to make the team, So it's just like if he needs the next, 5-6 weeks to still rehab and recover from that Achilles tear, doesn't matter. Who cares? As long as the sooner he gets back on the field, the better. So no big deal him being on the pup list. As for Motta, I think it's something that I think I've been expecting pretty much all offseason. We talked a little bit about this the last couple of weeks. I guess, him going on the pup list as opposed to IR or some other list or whatever, the NFI, I don't even know if he's eligible for that, but means I guess the Falcons haven't technically ruled him out for the season yet, But I'm still not optimistic that he's going to play. It wouldn't surprise me if we get like a week or two in camp and they basically say, yeah, he's going on the IR and let's go out and sign another safety to bring into camp.
Now, one thing I noticed that's a little weird about Ebert is his speed numbers are a little off the charts. I realize I'm going a little back to the old topic, but sorry, he ran a 4.38 in the 40 coming out.
Yeah.
So Peters is going to be ready for the season. At least not till late preseason game. First preseason game at best, he's going to, start practicing, maybe. But everything from their camp says, he's still working out. He's just trying to get his leg healthy. And once his leg's healthy, he'll be good to go. It's a tough injury to come back from.
Yeah, it's one of those injuries. It's like basically they're like two career killer injuries. Achilles is one, and then it's like multiple ligament tears in your knee is a career killer. Like if you just tear an ACL, obviously not trying to make light of that injury, but it's something that you can recover from. You tear, there's 4 major ligaments in your knee, and if you tear all of them, there hasn't been a player yet that has come back from that injury. But if you tear more than 2 or more of those ligaments, they're pretty tough. So with the Achilles, it's one of those things where it's like you just gotta take your time, be patient, and not try to push it. And hopefully, Corey Peters will give us, if we're lucky, 16 games. But I'll take 12 if that's all he can give us this year. It's better than nothing. So
yeah, I'd gladly take like 4.
Yeah.
But I'm a little different. I know that in 4 games, I think Corey Peters could have 6 sacks if he's 100% healthy. Especially with big fatty Paul Soliai right next to him. It's tough to not be like, yeah, Paul Soliai is not going to open up holes for Corey Peters when he obviously is. And then I feel bad for Zeke Motta, but I just don't think there's any way. I don't think there's any way he ends up on the on the active roster this year. Because neck injuries are tough, and I think the Falcons are really just kind of keeping him and paying him to be like, thanks for putting up with us in 2013. Thanks for sticking with it and giving your all, but at this point, it's just kind of like, we know we kind of screwed the pooch here.
Yeah,
I like him.
I think the Falcons are keeping their options open, but this doesn't make me any more real optimistic that he's going to play this year. I've been thinking, for the last 2-3 months that he's pretty much not going to play, and until they basically until we hear, oh yeah, Zeke Motta's, he's practicing again, he's off the pup list, I'm going to keep believing that he's not going to play this year. So that's basically.
I think that's a pretty safe assumption.
Yeah.
All right. And then back to Pat Anger. Again, I'm going over the combine numbers. He has a very similar combine score, like the scores that I gave, the agility and that kind of scores. He had a very similar combine score to Weatherspoon in terms of speed, agility, explosion. But he also did all of this at less weight, and he was just a little quicker in the 3-cone, not the 3-cone, in the short shuttle. And he was, he was a great athlete coming out. He just hasn't shown that he's, how do I put this, a great NFL player.
Well, I think that's a good point you bring up because, again, I saw him as a mid-round talent when he came out because I didn't see great athleticism on tape. But I think one of the reasons why the Colts had wound up taking him in the late 2nd round was because he had a good combine, and he showed more athleticism at the combine than he probably really showed on the field. And so that was one of the reasons why his draft stock got bumped up. But, when you say
I had a third round grade on him.
when you say he compares to Weatherspoon, like they're not the same on the field, but maybe their combine numbers are similar.
Yeah, their combine numbers are the same, but overall they're not anywhere close. Like talent-wise, instinct-wise, no, but athleticism, like raw athleticism, yeah. But at the same time, Prince Shembo put up a ridiculous combine too. According to these numbers, if Shembo had a better combine than Spoon. But Warlow had the best numbers out of all of them. So, I don't know. And Massaquoi had a very good combine when it comes to his numbers because it's all done by weight. At 264, he ran a 4.68. It's a pretty good combine setup. But anyway, got some training camp questions here that we want to kind of go over. There's a lot riding on the offensive line. I mean, a lot. They finally have the raw talent. But 3 weeks doesn't feel like it's enough time for these guys to gel, be ready to go. Then again, I said the same thing in 2008. How are these guys going to be ready, and how are they going to be good to go when, you got undrafted free agents winning jobs? And they all proved me wrong. So, what are your thoughts there?
I think it's going to be interesting to watch because the last couple of preseasons we've been kind of like, oh, is our offensive line going to be kind of good? And last year it seemed like they were kind of getting there, and then Mike Johnson got hurt, and then it was all downhill from there. I'm a little bit optimistic about this group because I think Jake Matthews is a quick study. Asamoah has obviously got experience. It's not like Sam Baker, Sam Baker. So, I'm really looking forward to seeing them gel, and I think we'll see by like the second or third preseason game them start to play pretty strongly, at least to give us some confidence going into the week 1 against the Saints. So I'm optimistic.
I mean, I'm optimistic too. I think the big thing that happened in 2008 was they got a weak opponent in the Detroit Lions, which kind of helped them out because it was like having a 5th preseason game.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the Saints here, and I'm kind of like, screw the Saints, but it's safe to say that's like the complete opposite of playing the 2008 Detroit Lions.
Yeah, those are the 0-16 Lions.
Yeah, those were the 0-16 Lions. That's who the Falcons had that year. This is like facing. I always like looking at the Saints like a 11-5 to 13-3 team because they've always got that talent level. That's not a knock, That's a high level of talent for a team, and they've always got great coaching. So, you're in for a dogfight if the offensive line can get 125 yards on the ground that game. I think it's safe to say Atlanta wins.
Yeah.
Because that 125 will open up just enough in the passing offense. And if Julio Jones is 100% healthy, I think Atlanta will win. Mainly because it's in Atlanta, too.
Yeah, the thing that I'm looking forward to is Sam Baker and Jake Matthews versus Cameron Jordan and Junior Gillette. Because last year, those two guys just absolutely ripped through Baker and Holmes in the week 1. And it was just sad and pathetic. And then, Cameron Jordan's talking a little smack this offseason, calling the Falcons soft and talking, a little junk. And I'm hoping Jake Matthews basically goes in there and shuts them up.
Well, let's put it this way. It shouldn't even be Jake Matthews who blocks Cam Jordan. It should be John Asamoah. Because Matthews has the feet to hold off that linebacker on the edge. And if he has to hit, and smack around Cameron Jordan a couple times, let him do it. I'm not saying Cameron Jordan's not good. Cameron Jordan's great. I wish the Falcons had Cameron Jordan last year. Would have been much happier. That's where I think Rashid Hageman could end up being. Hageman could be that next Cameron Jordan or Richard Seymour. He's not like J.J. Watt, but I mean, he's got the length and he's got the athletic potential to be like J.J. Watt. But he won't come anywhere close. And I hope he proves me wrong on that, but I don't see him coming anywhere close. But no, I mean, that's what the Falcons needed last year, was they needed a guy like Cameron Jordan. But you're not going against Garrett Reynolds and Lamar Holmes now in the first game of the year. You're going against Jake Matthews of the Matthews lineage that has put out God knows how many Pro Bowlers and at least 3, maybe even 4 Hall of Famers. I mean, I don't see a way that Jake Matthews doesn't at least give Cameron Jordan a run for his money.
Mm-hmm.
If that's all he has to deal with all game, hey, Jake, you're getting Cameron Jordan, and, you'll get some help from Asamoah every now and again. I think he'll be fine. And then I think Sam Baker, if he gets injured again, whatever, just put Holmes back out there. I thought towards the end of the year, Holmes was getting a little bit better because he wasn't having to worry about the right side sucking so hard. Now he really won't have to worry about the right side sucking so hard. And he might even get put back on the right side. I just think if you have a good pair of guards like Laylock and Asamoah, it allows allows Matt Ryan to step up in the pocket and deliver the ball. It allows the tackles to push the pocket around. Because the way that the pocket works, you've got the guards set the depth. So they don't let guys get past a certain point. Your tackles pull it around, and they try to, it's legitimately a pocket. And then the center is supposed to help the guards maintain that depth. But he's also supposed to make the right line calls, like, oh, hey, Junior Galette's over here with Cameron Jordan. Maybe we should have Asamoah and Matthews kind of slide protect. Mm-hmm. That's what Holly's job is. So.
Well, speaking of Cameron Jordan, are the Falcons going to have an impact pass rusher emerge this year?
I've been saying it all season. All off season. Jonathan Massaquoi. That's the name. That's the guy. OC's probably still going to get 8 sacks. Troy Bierman's probably going to get 4 or 5. Just by having Bierman back is going to be nice. You're probably going to see 3 or 4 from Babineau. You're probably going to see 3 or 4 from Goodman, or not Goodman, from either Hageman or Peters, whoever sees more time. You'll probably get 1 from Soliai and 1 from Jackson, and that's probably being generous. And you'll get a couple from the inside guys. But I think Massaquoi, if there's anybody on this roster who's ready to make that step, it's him. And I think you might see Mapanga take another step. I haven't been too high on Mapanga this offseason. Went back and watched a little bit of tape from last year. He still didn't look great, but he was a rookie. So I'm like, okay, let's kind of see if there's any salvageable. Every issue he has is technique. It's all technique. Sugarberry didn't teach him a thing, which is both good and bad. It's bad because Sugarberry didn't do his job.
Mm-hmm.
It's good because Brian Cox can do his job. And, Mapanga does play with aggression. He just had no idea what he was doing out there. He was put out there way too early and he wasn't ready. It's like what you're going to see if they put Tyler Starr out there too early this year. And I love Tyler Starr, but I don't think he's ready. And that is what it is. I mean, he's just not ready.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if there was that violent number 1 pass rusher that you want to emerge, I think it's Jonathan Massaquoi.
Scott, question. Playing little devil's advocate. What happens? What's going to happen if those first couple of preseason games, no one's really emerging? What if Massaquoi doesn't really shine in the preseason? Is that going to cause any concern for you?
Preseason, no.
Okay.
Regular season, after about 4 games, if the Falcons haven't had one guy emerge, it depends. It's all about the team. So, if they've got, not one guy who's on pace for 10 sacks, but they've got like 2 or 3 guys on pace for 6 or 7, I feel like that's just as good. If they got, or not 2 or 3, 3 or 4 guys on pace for 6 or 7, that'd probably be just as good. If Bierman and OC and Mapanga and Massaquoi all have a sack and a half or 2 sacks after that first 4 games, why not? Hey, I'm cool with that.
Okay.
Each of those guys is on pace for that 6 to 8 range. What's the worst that can happen is they all fall off a cliff and don't, end up getting anything more. But if they're all on pace for 6 to 8, you're on pace for 24 to 32 from those 4 guys, you're fine. Like I said, it all depends on how it ends up breaking down. And as long as the run defense looks good, the Falcons should be fine. That's the big thing. If the run defense is good, and they may not have a lot of sacks, but they're at least getting some pressure and creating some interceptions, I'll be much happier with the defense.
All right. Next big training camp question. Are Robert Alford and Dwight Lowry ready to step up in the secondary?
I said Alford was ready about halfway through the season last year because I got tired of seeing Asante Samuel get burned. You're gonna see Alford get burned every now and again. It happens. You're gonna see Lowry get burned every now and again. It happens. But as long as they don't get burned as much as Deku and Samuel did, then you should be fine. That's what you have to worry about. Don't let them get destroyed the way those two did. Because that was, oof. It was tough to watch last year. It was tough to be a fan and easy to be an analyst. Because it was saying, oh, hey, what's wrong? Everything. Oh, hey, what's working? That Paul Warlow guy is good. Oh, that Joplo Bartu guy is good. Oh, there's potential with Massaquoi. It was like watching 16 preseason games. And towards the end, it was like watching... I'm going to stop before I say something good.
I know what you meant, man. I got pretty tired of last year towards the end of the season. But let's move on. Next question. A lot of people have asked me this one. Is Levine Tololo going to start this year at tight end, and will he have impact?
Will he start? Yes. Out of the fact that there's nobody else. I mean, no offense to Mickey Schuler. No offense to Bear Pasco, but you're not brought in so that you can compete with Toilolo. And if Toilolo loses his job to y'all, Falcons probably didn't make the right pick. But the team likes him. Matt Ryan likes him. And they do enjoy his size, his intelligence. They say he makes a mistake once and he learns from it and he doesn't make the same mistake twice, which that's a big compliment. And the guys who are just really, really, really good do that. Roddy White was like that from 2007 on. After Joe Horn smacked him upside the head and said, "You can be good, quit being a jerk." Yeah. That's the kind of guy he is.
The thing about Toilolo that's interesting to me, because I was a big fan of Toilolo while I was at Stanford, and one of the reasons why I liked him because he's got his height, he's got good speed for a guy as big as he is, and he was really good at Stanford, stretching that seam with basically it was Andrew Luck, play action fake, throw it down the seam up and let Toilolo go up and get it. And, when that sort of ability has the ability to impact in the NFL, the big concern for me, though, when the Falcons drafted him is because when we had Tony Gonzalez, we never really did that with Otto. It was basically Tony Gonzalez run 7 yards down the field, turn around, and Matt Ryan throw the ball. So it's going to be interesting to me if the Falcons sort of kind of gear their offense more towards what I thought were Toilolo's strengths, because he's not that type of guy that's just basically turn around 7 yards and throw you the ball. You can do it, but he's not going to be open. And, Tony Gonzalez probably has the best hands in the league, and basically he was either going to catch every pass or it's going to be incompletion. He was going to knock it down. That won't be the case with Toilolo. Maybe a couple of years down the road, sure, but it ain't going to be the case in 2014. So,
but to be fair, Toilolo doesn't have the beating on his body that was forcing Tony Gonzalez to run basically 7 yard in, 7 yard out, 7 yard stop every single down. That was what he ran. Every single play, 7 yard cut route. So Toilolo can actually run a post. He can actually run a slant. He can run a go route even. He can run that skinny fade. He can run all sorts of different routes that'll open up the offense a little bit. It's not going to be as vanilla and as easy to predict as it once was. Because you don't have a tight end sitting there going, hey, I'm open 7 yards, boom. Hey, I'm open 7 yards, boom. Because that's all Tony Gonzalez was doing. He had an option route every play. Hey, run out 7 and go.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, run a quick screen and you're good. You didn't have the speed there. You got more speed with Toilolo. You can run drag routes even. It opens up the routes. I'm not trying to talk crap about Tony Gonzalez, but let's be honest about what he was late in his career. He was a 7 yard stop guy who lined up in the slot mainly and barely blocked well and wasn't really a willing blocker. That's what he was the last 2 seasons. It's tough to hear if you're a huge Tony Gonzalez fan, but that's what he would revert it to. Don't get me wrong. Still one of the best tight ends to ever play the game. But 34 and 35-year-old Tony Gonzalez and 36-year-old Tony Gonzalez was not the Tony Gonzalez that you wanted on your team if you wanted to have an open offense.
Yeah, I guess that's a fair point. I would argue, though, that, despite how limited Tony Gonzalez was, he was the best at the 7 yard option route in the league. Nobody better.
Great at it. He was great at it, but that's all he ran.
Yeah.
Put Levine Toilolo in on a couple different routes instead of Tony. There were a couple times where they had Levine Toilolo and Tony Gonzalez lined up right next to each other. And Toilolo dropped back and blocked, and Tony ran a route. When it would make more sense to run a combo route with the two, Tony clears and Toilolo runs around him.
Yeah.
But
let's move on.
They're cutter.
All right. Is Paul Warlow ready to be the guy in the middle of the defense? I think I know Scott's answer.
Yes. Is Paul Warlow ready to be the defensive leader, the heart and soul of the defense, him and Moore? Yeah, dude. He was ready to go with Weatherspoon. Warlow, these guys love him. They love Paul Warlow. The fans love Paul Warlow. Dude, one of the best guys you'll ever meet. One of the best guys you'll ever see. One of the best guys you'll ever be in a locker room around is Paul Warlow. Because he's the hardest worker. And, what did he do this offseason? He said, I got to get bigger, stronger. I've got to improve my training. I've got to improve my speed. I've got to improve this. I've got to improve that. I've got to improve this. It just made sense. The guy wants to work to get better all the time. The guy knows the playbook like the back of his hand already. He's probably going to be the green dot guy this year. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't believe Paul Warlow's going to be the star.
I got nothing to add. You're right. I think he is. I think he's ready. Well, he'll have to be. So doesn't really matter if he is. He'll have to be. Let's talk about the other linebacker position because that since we have so much trust in Warlow, the other one's a little bit of a question mark. Who's going to win the battle between Joplo Bartu and Prince Shimbo? And I guess maybe Pat Anger if you want to throw him in the mix.
Anger? No. No. It's between Bartu and Shimbo. The more I kind of go over it, the more it's like I want to watch it because I can't really predict it. I want to say Bartu wins, but right now I'm not really confident in that prediction. Mainly because I think it all depends on what formation you're in. I think in the 4-3, weak side linebacker, that's Bartu. I think in the 3-4, weak inside, that's Shembo, who's going to have the edge. They might even just say, you know what, let's put Bartu out where Bierman's supposed to be in some sets, and then have Bierman play the weak side to spell Massacre. I think we're going to see a lot more rotation between the linebackers, between the linemen this year than we've seen in a long time. I think the only guy who you're going to see 1,000 snaps in that front seven is going to be Paul Warlow. As long as he stays healthy, I think he's the only guy who will play every snap in that front seven. I think you're going to have Bartu play some strong side linebacker. You're going to have Bierman play some weak side. You're going to have Cole Bierman off the field sometimes. Have Bartu and have Mapanga in there if you want just like an edge setter and a pass rush. I mean, it's going to be a tough defense to really predict how it's going to rotate, like how they're going to rotate all the guys. But I see a lot of rotation between Shembo and Bartu, and when they're in the 4-3, even Spruill's should see some time because he's fast. He might be that guy who covers running backs out of the backfield or something. Because he did a good job with that at Stanford. Or not Stanford, at Syracuse.
Okay. Well, anybody that read my scouting report of Shimbo on FalFans.com, go check it out, probably knows that I was not the biggest fan of that draft pick. I graded Shimbo as probably the least talented of all 9 of our picks. And so basically that means 2 things. If he wins the battle, that either means I was just really wrong about Shimbo, which is certainly possible. I've been wrong about some guys occasionally. But no. Or it means, the Falcons inside linebacker position, if I'm sort of right about Shimbo, then it's going to be a problem area, And I guess for me, if Bartu loses to the guy I think Shimbo is, that would be very disappointing, at least for my expectations of the sort of player that I think Bartu is. And so, like, for me, I think Bartu is clearly a much more talented player. And so I think he's going to win the job, and I don't really see it as a competition now. Maybe the fact that there is supposedly a competition says something that, maybe Bartu's not doing the work in the film room or something. I don't know. But
trust me, that's not the issue.
Okay. Well, the speculation on my part, but we'll see what happens. But I think it should be Bartu, and I won't stake my life on it, but I put a good deal of money down on it that Bartu would win that job. Like I think it's night and day in terms of talent. And remember, Bartu was an undrafted free agent for a reason, and I still think it's night and day in terms of who's the more talent.
I think Shembo inside is tough to really project because he played outside his entire time at Notre Dame. So you're just kind of like, I want to try and project Shembo inside, but I can't really do it because it's like I don't really know.
Well, I'll say this: he projects better inside than I think he does outside because I didn't think he projected outside. Like I just didn't think he was.
That's why he couldn't close the deal on sacks, because he didn't project well outside.
Yeah.
But
So
I think as like an inside pass rusher, it makes a lot of sense. And I do think long term, Bartu's going to be the strong outside linebacker. I think that's the goal. Because I don't think they see Bartu as an inside guy. I think they see him more as Bierman's backup, Bierman's potential successor, Bierman's basically the guy who they want to take Bierman's job this year more than the guy they want to take Weatherspoon's job.
okay.
So I think the whole Shembo thing is just trying to buy time from what Weatherspoon was and just like, I don't know. I think they see more out of Shembo for the role there than they do Bartu. Now in the 4-3, I think it's the opposite. It all depends on what formation you're talking.
Mhm.
So, all right. Mailbag time.
All right, mailbag.
Ryan Lounsbury asks, how many coaches will be at the end of a Matt Bosher tackle this year? What's your over-under?
Well, I'm gonna say two. He got one last year in the Jets game. Cleaned that guy's clock, jaw a little bit with Rex Ryan. So I'm gonna say he'll probably get one more this year. So two.
It's tough, but if I had to pick, I'm going to say three. Now, he might hit the same coach twice.
Okay. Rob Ryan?
That's my thoughts.
Yeah.
You might, just take out Rob Ryan, like, I'm a safety. But
They complete the set, the Ryan set.
that leads to the other question. Could Matt Bosher win the free safety job?
He might. I would like to see what he can do in the dime package. Yeah.
He's a better tackler than Thomas Deku was, I'll tell you what.
That is true. That is true.
All right. Devontae Hughes, formerly known as A Box of Cookies, says, what's your take on how Pat and Jeremy can make the team? Work hard and be better than anyone else in their position. That's how they make the team. Just like everybody else.
Yeah. I would say Pat has got a decent shot. Pat Anger, that is, has a decent shot anyway. I think Ebert's going to need, maybe a guy to get hurt here or there, and then kind of just like really light it up, maybe in like that last preseason game and have like 7 catches for like 83 yards or something like that. The player I'll compare him to, if a couple of the Saints fans, Andy Tanner, who's like the 6th wide receiver for the Saints. He's basically the same type of dude. Very productive on their second and third teams in the preseason the last couple of years. That type of sort of impact, I guess. So, next question is TSCR in Nick. Don't know what that is, but how will the Falcons replace Tony Gonzalez's production at tight end?
I think you're going to see a lot more slot, a lot more 4 vertical concepts. I think you're going to see a lot more 4 wide receiver sets. I think you're going to see more 2 running back sets, more 2 tight end sets. It's not one guy who's going to replace all that production. There's a lot of yards and a lot of catches you're going to have to replace. And I think getting back Julio Jones is going to be huge. But if there was one guy or 2 guys who are really going to take most of the brunt of they're going to take most of that production work, it's going to be a combination of Harry Douglas and Levine Toilolo. And the Falcons are going to run a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. A lot of them. Speaking with guys from the team, they're basically like, we've phased out a fullback, essentially. We use them maybe 150 plays, 200 plays a year. It's 20% position.
Yeah. I think they'll replace the production with a bunch of guys. Douglas, healthy Julio Jones will eat into that. Healthy Roddy White will eat into that. Hester will eat into it. If we're making this distinction between production versus impact. Harry Douglas was productive last year. he wasn't very impactful. But, I think we can replace Tony Gonzalez's production fairly easy. You just throw the ball. Someone's going to catch it, right? So that's not a big deal. Replacing his impact is going to be the bigger issue because he was so good on third downs. He was so good in the red zone. Now, you hope Toilolo can help you out in the red zone. Obviously, Julio's a big red zone guy. Roddy's a big red zone guy. So you hope that impact between the three of those guys, you can kind of get that Tony Gonzalez money, throw it up, dunk the ball, sort of red zone impact. Third down is going to be a little tougher. That's mainly going to be Roddy and Julio. Obviously, Julio needs to be healthy for him to impact. So that's basically what you're hoping for. The rest of it's kind of just, I won't say empty yards, but it's, really that's what Tony Gonzalez is going to be. It's third down and in the red zone. When it's 3rd and 6, you need 7 yards, throw it to Tony Gonzalez. You're at the 8-yard line, it's 3rd and 8, 3rd and goal, you need the touchdown, throw it to Tony Gonzalez. Basically, when you're looking at the Falcons team this year, the only two guys that you can say that about is Roddy and Julio. Maybe with Toilolo a little bit in the red zone. So we'll see.
Makes sense to me.
All right, Dave Kent's got 3 questions for us. Good old Dave. Always gives us questions.
He really does.
First one is, what game or team on our schedule is the best matchup for the Falcons?
Ooh, that's a tough one. That's a real tough one. Like, which one is going to be the easiest win? If I had to pick, I'd say Minnesota in Week 4 with a rookie quarterback. That's probably the best matchup for Atlanta. Their defense isn't great. Their cornerbacks can't really hang with physical wide receivers. They've got a good pass rush, but they should be a good test for the Falcons' offensive line. Their linebackers are weak. As my good friends Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy, for those who watch NXT, would say, they're SAWFT, soft.
Okay. My pick would be Detroit, the Lions. I know they got some weapons on offense, but I do think we have, if Trufant can channel a little bit of Optimus Grimes in that London game, I think, we can keep Calvin in check. It's going to be the big issue of, is Jim Caldwell in the offense, are they going to spread the ball around? Because they do have a lot of weapons. Bush, Ebron, Golden Tate, Ryan Broyles, etc., Jock Bell. So, they're going to spread us out. But I do think if we can keep Calvin in check, none of those other guys, maybe with the exception of Ebron, really scare me. But the thing I like about the Lions is they have a weak secondary, so our guys can just go at them. I think we can handle their pass rush, which we couldn't really a couple of years ago when we played them. Sue just destroyed Peter Kahns in that game. Asamoah should do a lot better against them. Matthew should be able to handle Zeke Ansah or whoever he's supposed to be blocking. So, and their offensive line is decent, but I'm not as high on our pass rush as Scott may be, but I think their offensive line is weak enough where I could see our pass rush giving Matt Stafford some problems. Plus, Stafford is probably, other than Tim Tebow, has the worst mechanics of any quarterback in the NFL, and he's prone to throw an interception because he sidearms the ball. So I think that's plays right into our defense's hands. So I'll pick Detroit.
It makes sense to me.
All right, Dave has another question about our schedule. What game on our schedule do you see as an unexpected banana skin? Which I'm taking to mean, a game that you kind of think is going to be easy, but then you kind of slip up on.
Cleveland.
Okay.
Cleveland. They have one of the best offensive lines in the league. They've got one of the best defensive front sevens in the league. They're a tough, physical team. Atlanta has shown, I think they'll be more of a measuring stick for the Falcons than, say, Cincinnati would, or, say, Chicago would. Just because they've got arguably the best offensive line in the league. And Joe Thomas, Alex Mack, those guys aren't going to play. Their defensive line is big and nasty. Atiba Rubin, Desmond Bryant, Phil Taylor. Those guys are just nasty guys. That is what I hope Atlanta's defensive front seven will look like next year. It's that good.
Mm-hmm.
I think if there was that unexpected banana skin, it's Cleveland. They've got a great talent-filled defense. They've got a great offensive line. They've got some solid receivers, not great, but solid. They've got a top-notch tight end. They've got one of the best running backs in the league in Ben Tate. They're switching to a zone blocking scheme to make him happy, too. I mean, they could easily be a 7 or 8 win team by the time they come to Atlanta. And I could see them being that unexpected. They could be that team that ends up beating Atlanta that no one expects at this point. They're a good team. They're a good team.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I think the other choice would have been Minnesota, but you already outlined why we're a good matchup against them. Obviously Cleveland has a couple of things that usually are kryptonite for the Falcons. They have a tight end who can catch, which basically means that's about 300 yards receiving that week. They have a mobile quarterback.
200.
Okay. We'll say 250. They have a mobile quarterback by the name of Johnny Football. Maybe you've heard of him. Obviously the Falcons have had plenty of trouble with Cam Newton over the years, and Johnny Football's not the same as Cam Newton, but he creates a lot of headaches. And the other thing that Cleveland has going for them is they have 2 pretty good corners that they like to put in man coverage. Now, whether or not Hayden and Gilbert are going to be good enough to handle a healthy Julio and a healthy Roddy, we'll see. But, knowing Falcons history, who knows if Julio's going to play that week. And then that basically means Hayden's going to match up shadow Roddy all game. And then Gilbert can basically, take a break covering Harry Douglas. So, it's a couple of pitfalls for the Falcons, if Cleveland's clicking on all cylinders and the Falcons aren't by that point this season.
I mean, yeah, that's the game. That is you'll know what the Falcons are by then too. They'll either be, 8-2 or they'll be 2-8. We'll know how the season's gone by then. And if Cleveland is a 7 or 8 win team, Atlanta will just get destroyed that week. I hate to say it. It's just, if Atlanta's a 2-8 team and Cleveland's a 7 or 8 win team, Atlanta's going to get destroyed.
All right. Last Dave Kent question is, will there be an open competition for starting running back at training camp?
I'm going to say no. You don't bring a guy like Steven Jackson in and pay him the money that you're paying him to say, oh, open competition, second year in the contract. Not happening.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. Even if Jacquizz Rodgers and Devontae Freeman are great this summer, and everybody's like, oh, why can't these guys, get some, Steven Jackson's getting paid, and he's going to start. That's the bottom line.
Devontae Rodgers will have to look like the second coming of work done. Like prime level work done to take Steven Jackson's job. And even still, he's not going to fully take Steven Jackson's job. He might take, say there's 450 carries that are going to be split between the 3 guys. He might take, 150. Jackson will take 150. Rodgers will take 100. And you got 50 that go to random guys like DeMarco and Anton Smith, and end arounds to Julio and Harry and Hester, and that's what's going to happen in that kind of situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It'll be the best you can if you're hoping for this is a committee system like Scott laid it out, but still Jackson's gonna get the first carry in every game, so he's gonna be the starter. Basically. Mike Smith's, their offensive philosophy, they want to establish the run early, and they want to be physical early in the game. And Steven Jackson gives them the best, chance of that, at least in their eyes, my eyes as well. And so he's going to get the first carry every game, as long as he's healthy. Yeah, it
wouldn't shock me if the first play of all 16 games looked like 2010. Run to the right. Michael Turner right behind Todd McClure, Harvey Dahl, and Tyson Clabo. Just
no one knew it was coming. Right. Everybody knew it was
coming.
Ends
up being. You knew it was coming, but you couldn't stop it from gaining 4 yards.
Yeah. That was the last time we could actually say, yeah, we can run the ball. You know it's coming, but you can't stop it. That was the last season we've had that.
You know exactly what the play is. It hasn't changed ever. That entire season, exact same play. Maybe it was superstition, but it was a blast right behind Harvey Dahl in between that gap. Maybe do it now. Asamoah and Matthews are same kind of attitude.
Yeah, maybe. All right. Last mailbag question is from Falcons fan 1977. He asks, "Who's the best OT in camp so far?"
Camp hasn't started yet. The best one from minicamp was easily Sam Baker. But
these words, best and Sam Baker, in the same sentence, I do not understand this.
It's minicamp. It's practicing in shorts. You can't really tell anything in minicamp. And the best in training camp doesn't start till Thursday. I can't give you a fair estimation because I don't know.
Just because, I like to be different, I'll say Jake Matthews. There's your answer. He's the best.
Because he's Jake Matthews. Because he's a Matthews. He's just born knowing how to play offensive tackle.
His name is Best Matthews. That's what it is.
No, that was his dad, Bruce.
Bestus Matthews.
All right. I think that's it for the week.
Yep. Well, people, that's another show for us. Next week we will be coming at you again. We'll actually be able to talk about the first few days of training camp. Who's playing well, who's doing not so well, who's got nicked up, who's coming back, all that type of jazz. It's going to be a fun show. Hit us up with your mailbag questions. Hit the show up at FalconsPFC on Twitter. Use the hashtag FalconsMailbag. We'll definitely get those. I'm also on Twitter. You can see my name somewhere around here. At FalcFans. Scott is at Scott Karasik. Check out Scott's stuff on Bleacher Report, Draft Falcons. I don't know where he's going to be writing, but you'll see his stuff. Scott's not going to stop writing. So my stuff is on FalcFans.com, and that's it.